Hey everyone, it's Tom Seymour from VHS Massacre. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff. I don't routinely do this. I do this occasionally, but I did want to show you this. This is an Arrow video box set, which it looks like a video store. And I just got this off of Amazon. Pretty good deal, $49.99, and it's got 5 movies. A few people have talked to me about this set. I did I was on the fanzine show with Greg Brewer and Tom Connolly and some people, Full Moon and everyone. It was pretty crazy. But I brought up some of these titles like Robot Jocks, and Greg mentioned this box set, Arrow Video, and then one of my buddies, Paul, he brought it reminded me of this flick called Dungeonmaster. My buddy Paul told me about this months ago. This is a film, apparently, a lot of these are from Empire Pictures, which is a film studio. It's a very elaborate story about some of these films, how they were lost. But it was a Charlie Band company, had this company called Empire Pictures. And the company eventually had financial trouble, so the films were actually seized. And then eventually some were put out here and there. I think Robot Jocks was put out through MGM. And so this is a really interesting collection. And Empire Pictures is... I mean, Full Moon is amazing, incredible stuff. But Empire Pictures, which is also Charlie Band Films, has... some really interesting stuff. This film, Dungeonmaster, stone giants, evil sorcerers, zombie warriors, post-apocalyptic car chases, supercomputers, and 80s heavy metal. The Dungeonmaster, aka Rage War. So this was a film, it's got Richard Mole in it. It was Empire Pictures. Produced by Charlie Band, had 4 different directors, features the band Wasp in it for a little while. What is cool about it is the practical effects, some of the gore effects. There's some sort of zombies and just different creatures. And I don't know if you can see this, but anyway, so this is a beautiful transfer as well. I think they did a really good job. The grain is still there. The grain's very beautiful. The older I get, the more I just really appreciate films that were shot using film versus digital. Now, I'm someone who shot a 16mm feature-length film called Everything Moves Alone, a comedic drama. But I've also done a number of, I've directed about a dozen feature-length films, but most of them were digital, not by choice, by budget. But there is something about film, for sure, especially some of these transfers that are handled really well. I mean, it really matters. Although I will say, like in contemporary cameras, my Blackmagic 4K Pocket is pretty amazing. The Arri Alexa and the Arri Alexa Mini, really beautiful stuff. So, use what you can, use what you have. So if you're an independent filmmaker out there, don't let that stop you. Look at this. Robot Jocks has never looked so good. We got Arena. Arena is another one my buddy Paul told me to seek out. So when I realized Dungeonmaster, Robot Jocks, and Arena are all in the box set, really it's like pretty incredible. Arena is really fascinating because so many of the people in this film went on to be in Deep Space Nine. The guy who plays Quark, one of the Cardassians, and then some of the cast went on to star in Babylon 5. So I don't know if I'll be able to find them here, but from the director of Eliminators and Enemy Territory, it's a Man vs. Monster and Arena, the Ultimate Fight Night. let's see, Steve Armstrong from Creepshow 2. Anyway, you'll have to check this out. The thing is, it's about a human on a space station, and where there's boxing. It's futuristic boxing, and all the aliens box, and a human hasn't been champion in 100 years or something like that. And so it's about this human champion. Now, if that plot sounds familiar, it may be because there was a game, I think it's called Power Punch 2, and that was the setup. You were essentially like a Mike Tyson fighting monsters. So it's weird how movies like this kind of seep into the culture in unusual ways. But this is another one where, it's all practical effects, some really amazing creature effects. And, written by Dan Bilson and Paul DeMatteo, Trancers, Zone Troopers, Rocketeer. Co-stars Claudia Christian from Babylon 5. Okay. Armin Shimmerman from Deep Space Nine. Outrageous makeup effects by the likes of Screaming Mad George. Arena as a knockout. Okay, so that's what you got there. Just really fascinating. Even for younger people out there, it's not that it's not going to be like a little campy, and some of the effects obviously are going to look a certain way, but you have to understand, like, contemporary CGI effects looked, to most people my age, look pretty bad. So when we see creatures built by hand, months spent on sets and stuff like that, we appreciate this more because of the handcrafted nature of it. You can see the human work put into it. That's not to say CGI is not human work. Not saying that, because some of that stuff's incredibly hard to do. Arena, Cellar Dweller. That's another one I don't know much about. Director of Troll and Friday the 13th Part 7 comes Cellar Dweller. John Buechler. Yeah, that one looks cool. Can't wait to see that one. Dolls. Don't know much about Dolls. Fresh from the 1-2 punch Reanimator and From Beyond comes director Stuart Gordon. Okay, legendary director Stuart Gordon. So that should be a good one. Yeah. Anyway, it's a really cool set. I don't know. I can't say enough about this. This is so cool. I've only watched Robot Jox. I grew up watching. That was always on cable. I'd have to go over to my friend's house to see it. He had the good cable. So all the rest of these are new for me. So it's a real treat. So I can't recommend it more. Yeah. Okay, next. The Black Sunday Film Festival has started today, actually. It's in the United Kingdom in Colchester, and it's being held at First Sight Cinema. It's a beautiful venue. I'm going to show you that. So we look at this. Absolutely gorgeous video. So this is the first screening of Video Dreams in a big theater, big beautiful theater. Look at this thing, absolutely gorgeous. So we're gonna see. Technically, it already has aired. I've heard some initial feedback. Look, this is Heidi's day pass. Look at that beautiful day pass. That's so cool. So the reason why this was cool for me, for those of you who don't know, independent filmmaker, Video Dreams is a documentary I did basically about my journey to become a direct-to-video filmmaker can get on the shelf at Blockbuster, and sort of what to do when those dreams no longer make sense, you know. So it's a film that I'm proud of. I think it came out pretty good, and it spans a 32-year period from basically when I was a teenager up until now, and sort of the valleys and mountains that I've climbed and the things I've gone through. And for sure in the doc you'll see it's never, ever, ever been easy. But the story is, you know, I think it's compelling. And so hopefully you'll get something out of it. And even if it's only to know that you must keep doing your art, you must keep going, and as I've said before, you can lose faith, you can lose hope, but don't stop working on your art. Never stop working on your art. And if your dreams fall apart and they don't make sense anymore, you must pick yourself up and build new ones, and never stop filming. And so I just want to say thanks to the Black Sunday Film Festival for playing the film in a big way, in a big, beautiful theater. And the Black Sunday Film Festival's been pushing this movie nonstop for weeks, and I've been doing the same through my social media. And that's a really fun thing that can happen, where if you enter film festivals, you end up collaborating, right? So they'll do an Instagram post, I'll share that back, and we'll collaborate. They'll put out a press announcement, so they actually got us on MSN and Dread Central and places like that. And so what it does is it creates all this external press, you know. So that's the value of the film festival circuit. Now, in my opinion, this is like represents maybe the first 25% of the festival run. We clock in with 16 official selections, 8 wins, so it's pretty strong. But I would say Black Sunday is probably the biggest event we've done. Maybe Halluciana in Paris, France, and Cine Paris next. The Independent Film Awards, and there's been other ones. So we were official selection of the North Film Festival in Spain, Indie Cinema in Rome, and so we really it's been a good run so far. Heavy European film festival run. We're keeping open a 5 boroughs premiere, fingers crossed, and actually really the whole I'd have to look at it. You know, I think technically a U.S. premiere is possible, because the festivals that we've like technically the Independent Horror Movie Awards is an online award competition, although it's respected. It's not a physical screening. And some of the other ones, we got into the Sci-Fi Horror and Action Film Festival. That doesn't screen till much later in the year. So technically there is a U.S. premiere open, West Coast and East Coast, then New York, L.A., New York. There's all sorts of premiere statuses that are still open. But we entered 81 independent film festivals, and it's really because at this point I kind of put my soul into this one, and I don't see being able to do a film like this in the way that I did it anytime again soon. That's not to say, like, I'd love to do a documentary on Empire Pictures or something, maybe the next year or two. I know there's one. I know someone else is working on one, though, so I might not want to do that one. I don't want to compete with someone who's doing that, but maybe I'll do an American Expendables 2 or something like that. By the way, you can get that Blu-ray through Vinegar Syndrome, which is like a very cool thing for me. Anyway, we really made a go of it with this film festival run, and I hope if there's any film festival operators or programmers out there who want to reach out to us, we'd be happy to play or film at your awesome festival. And we got some big ones. I entered some really, I entered probably 5 or 6 of the top 10 in the world. Then there's like large to mid-size. That's a good chunk, maybe 30 or 40, and then another 30 or 30 maybe is like the more genre-based. So when there are a lot of the top genre-based stuff too, and underground film festivals and small independents, because frankly those have been our meat and potatoes, for the past 10 years with through all the VHS Massacre films and Exorcism of Fleet Marish, and probably the last 5 or 6 features we've done. It's really been the underground and the independent film festivals that have let us screen, which has been amazing. And as a filmmaker, I treat that as my feeder run. So what that means is, I'm running film festivals for all of this year, maybe start of next year, and then after that completion, then I will do a streaming deal, more than likely with MVD, unless something crazy would have to happen. But frankly, these days I like MVD above almost any other distributor, just because it's very black and white. I did an interview with Doug from Doug TV, and he runs a Roku station called Doug TV, and so in that I do a little intro for McLeod. He's going to play McLeod, There Can Be Only One. That's a short film I did about film composer Kevin McLeod. And that actually has Lloyd Kaufman and John Brennan from The Last Drive-In and Tim Kulig, and I think it came out really cool. So that one is going to be playing on Roku. If you look up Doug TV, it'll be streaming there. It's also available on VHS Massacre Films on our YouTube if you're interested. And then I actually gave him permission to screen Late Night with Luann, which is we did this series called Monster Kill for Trauma Now. It was an original series, and what I did was I made a movie marathon out of it, so it's like a feature length marathon, and that's available on VHS Massacre Films. The episodic is available on Trauma Now exclusive, but the marathon is available on VHS Massacre Films, mostly on the YouTube right now. But all the other films, if you're interested, VHS Massacre 1 and 2, American Expendables, Exorcism, Fleet Marriage, they're pretty much all on Tubi, Prime, and then some are on Peacock, some are on Mubi, some are on Night Flight. There's this thing called Cineverse, which put out the new Toxic Avenger movie, and Terrifier 3. American Expendables is on Cineverse, which is kind of a big deal. It's really, so that's really interesting for those of you listening out there if you're interested in independent filmmaking. If you go through a company like MVD, they're the ones who have the power to pitch the film to these 50 streaming sites out there. And they can do it because they do it in bulk. Someone will say, okay, I want these, give me these 50 films, I'll take them. Give me these 500 films. Right, so that's how that works. Very hard as an individual to go to Cineverse, who put out Terrifier 3 and Toxic Avenger, Legendary Pictures Toxic Avenger, to say, hey, take my little movie. But if you go through NVD, that's a conduit to get there. So that's just something to know. And so that's so far. I try to be honest about what works and what has not worked in my career. I think this works as a work through. You do film, save up with your buddies. Try to enter at least 30 film festivals. You can do independent, underground. I recommend doing a horror film just because it's a built-in audience. People really like it. If it's not that good, some people will still like it. Horror is pretty forgiving. Try to stream in these. Try to get into these underground film festivals. Do a festival run too. My goal with Video Dreams is to. It's a stretch goal, but to premiere in 40 major cities. I don't know what we're at now. We're probably at about a dozen major cities, maybe 14 or 15 on the high end. I'd have to count. You do that first. So if you enter 30 film festivals, you're going to get into maybe 1/3 of those. Okay, so then you're playing in 10 major cities. That's great. Okay, so you do that. Then you try to get the streaming deal. Then you're streaming. Then if you go through a company like MVD, you probably end up, over the course of your whole film, probably end up on 20 different streaming sites, There's more than you think, So you do that, and actually then you do, this is my opinion, but this has actually worked. Then you go for a physical release. It's opposite of what you would think, right? You think, oh no, you do the physical media release first. That's the only way you can watch it. The problem with that is people like you and me, no one knows our work. So your work has to be kind of more famous to get to the physical release after. Because if people appreciate it, then they buy it. Or if even people have heard of it. So if, in a weird way, you think of all the theatrical, all the film festival, all the streaming as prep for the physical release. Because then maybe you will get a couple thousand people to buy the Blu-ray, So it's an odd thing, but it's held true so far for American Expendables. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Video Dreams, and I'll be honest if it doesn't work. But I think so far on Vinegar Syndrome, which put out American Expendables through ETR Media, they have sold, I think, 3/4 of the run. So that's pretty good numbers there. And then back to Late Night with the Land, that we put out on my social media. So I've been building that over the years. So I put it on YouTube and Instagram in halves, and then TikTok in halves, and it's gotten several thousand views. So not bad. I've been experimenting with if it's a project that's kind of been out already, and it's still available for streaming, and I have the rights to them, which I've gotten the rights back to most of my films at this point. I'll try to do some kind of premiere, but like a re-release feels like a bit too much. What I'll do is I'll prep them, and I'll make a remaster, and I'll put them out through like our YouTube channel or something like that. So, but potentially they could all end up on maybe a Blu-ray set. I think that would be my fantasy with Video Dreams, is to have like like basically that video store set. Maybe do something with Video Dreams and include like Everything Moves Alone, Land of College Prophets, London Betty, and then maybe the director's cut of Mark of the Beast, Exorcism, which is Exorcism of Fleet Marriage, and then maybe like Video Dreams, So it was a nice box set, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah. So anyway, I know these podcasts are interesting because I'm talking about myself a lot, but I'm so it's the thing I learned from Lloyd Kaufman is you do have to self-promote, and it's not more noble when Kim Kardashian pays a PR firm millions and millions of dollars to promote her and get her in the tabloids and create all these news stories. She ends up on like, you can hear like people on CBS and NBC running stories on her and barely being able to stomach reading the story. Like, why are we talking about this person? Well, it's because they paid for massive amounts of money for PR. So independent filmmakers like you and I, we don't have that. So we have to promote ourselves. I also like the film festival run because every time we get into a festival or we win something, we promote our movie to the public through social media. And it's a promotion for a good reason. It's merit-based. If we've gotten into a word official selection, our film has passed muster. That's certainly more noble than just promoting yourself, purely promoting your self-image, So don't ever feel ashamed to promote yourself or promote your movie, and it's definitely better when it's sort of merit-based stuff, The new Toxic Avenger, produced by Troma Studios, Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hers, is going to come out this summer. with Peter Dinklage and Kevin Bacon and Elijah Wood. And so it should be exciting. This thing has been, God, I mean, it's probably been like a decade in the works, because I know on talking to Lloyd, Legendary Pictures optioned this thing years and years ago. And so, it's kind of been floating around. And then for a while, Legendary Pictures, they couldn't find like a buyer for it. But recently, Cineverse picked it up, and they're going to do a theatrical run with it. And I just want to say, congratulations to Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hers and the rest of the Troma gang. Just delighted to have gotten to know Lloyd over the last decade, and have had my films distributed through them. VHS Massacre 1 and 2, Monster Kill. What else? McCloud. So, yeah, 4 different projects with Troma over the years, which has been really great. And now I'm getting to work with John Brennan a little bit from Troma and Last Drive-In, so that's been really cool. So keep an eye out for the Toxic Avenger. Looks like a lot of fun. Obviously, we're all Peter Dinklage fans. And it just goes to show you, though, you keep, Lloyd, you keep going. He's done these underground films for a long time. They're referred to as exploitation in regard to the way that they're marketed. You're exploiting something to market. Toxic Avenger is a monster, so you're exploiting in the marketing the fact that there's a monster in the movie, and there's blood and there's guts, and there used to be nudity. It's probably not going to happen in this new one, but all that to say is that I think these movies, Lloyd Kaufman and Troma are actually really important. I think they're sort of the canary in the coal mine for free speech in the arts. I don't want to get too political. I'm an artist first. So when I think about free speech, artistic expression is like really important. So when I see Troma, if Troma is healthy, I know filmmaking is healthy, because they're constantly pushing the limit. They're doing the gore and the gross out stuff and the nudity. They're constantly pushing the envelope with language and all this stuff. Because over the years, Debbie Rochon talks about this, the ebb and flow of acceptability of exploitation film. And when you're in a heavily censored era, that's I don't think it's that healthy. I've always been a counterculture person. That doesn't mean I automatically rail against what is popular. It just means that I tend to find that stuff more interesting. Like Toxic Avenger, Toxic Avenger is 100 times more interesting than like Titanic with James Cameron, right? I don't care about that stuff, So when I made the VHS Massacre films, I concentrated on more of the cold stuff because it's more interesting. People have not explored it as much. It's cooler, So like when people are obsessed purely with the mainstream stuff, I actually don't get it, I'm much more interested in the handcrafted stuff, or the stuff made more by human beings and less by committee. And as Lloyd Kaufman said, you can see behind the curtain on some low budget and no budget horror films, but that can be more fascinating than like a $300 million Marvel movie, which also looks like shit. So I find a lot of this stuff really important, and not in an ironic way. Like I really do. I think you need companies out there pushing the limits so that you know what the limits are, and that we're not slowly reduced to some puritanical society. Joe Bob Brigg talks about that a lot. How the United States have gone through these different puritanical eras. You can do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. So, and again, I'm talking purely from an artistic standpoint. So anyway, all that to say, if you want to make an independent film, you can absolutely do it. You only need a few friends. You only need one friend, really. You need one friend. You get together. You write like a 70-page script. Take 1 week off from work. Shoot on the weekend, the Monday through Friday, the other weekend. You got 9 days. Make a horror film. Borrow a DSLR, or even if you don't shoot on your phone, don't do that. Shoot on like minimum like a Lumix G7. Probably get it for $400. Ship in $200 a piece. Shoot in 4K, 24 frames a second. Get a cheap light kit, LED light kit, super inexpensive. Get a good boom mic, not very expensive. So you can do it all, you know. So it's possible, and then yeah, that's all I have to say. Good luck. Thanks to the Black Sunday Film Festival for playing our film. And I will have there'll be more information about about Video Dreams, Video Dreams, a VHS Massacre Story. There'll be more info in the next coming weeks about other festivals around the United States, actually around the world, where they'll be premiering. When I get into something, I'll try to announce it and post on social media. You can find me pretty much anywhere. X, Instagram, TikTok, where else? Facebook, YouTube, you know, all that stuff. So, all right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.